things moving so quickly, communication and learning can be almost blended together. I don't know that it should even be separate departments.
Welcome everyone to the Iventive Insights series. I'm delighted to be joined by David Goddard from Levy Restaurants. David is a great patron of Iventive. He's joined us previously and will be joining us again this year. I'm really looking forward to getting to know a little bit more about you and your work at Levy ahead of those sessions. And so maybe just as a helpful insight for people on network that maybe don't know Levy, or I actually think it's probably more like they don't know that they know Levy, but probably have been to one of your restaurants before. Perhaps you could share a little bit of context with us.
Yeah, of course. So Levy is a large food and beverage provider, primarily specializing in sports entertainment. So if you've been to a concert, a sports game, whether it's the Cubs here in Chicago or Wimbledon in London, or indeed the Johan Cruyff Stadium in Amsterdam, then you have sampled Levy's expertise in food and beverage. And we offer everything from the kind of hot dogs through to the prime rib in the President's Suite. We began 40 years ago as a small deli in Chicago, and since have grown into an international brand offering great guest experiences across sports, entertainment, restaurants, and convention centers.
Thank you. My alma mater is actually Skidmore College in upstate New York, and I know that Levy also has presence at the Saratoga racetrack. So I do have experience there as well. And you mentioned there it's largely sports and entertainment buildings. So even in a already fast-paced and operational industry, it's also a fast-paced and quick operation, broader context as well. What does that mean for you when you're shaping L&D and talent in that sort of an environment?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it means a couple of things. I think the first piece is getting the tactical piece right is incredibly critical. In different L&D examples, you've got a few months to onboard someone and bring them up to speed. In a sports and entertainment world where you might have 3,000 employees working at a 2-week event, or a few hundred employees working at Saratoga Racecourse, you have a few hours to bring those people up to speed, make sure that they know everything they need to know legally and safety-wise, but also that they know physically how to do the job, right? Whether it's how to pull a pint of beer or how to carry plates effectively, and really having the kind of tactical ways that are basing solid learning theory to ensure people are up to speed, confident, competent in a fast-paced environment. So what that means for my team is we've had to embed kind of L&D expertise to some level at every part of the organization. So my team doesn't do all of the training. We design materials, we create content, we train the trainer, and then our local teams really execute that. So making sure that the location leaders at Saratoga Racecourse understand the standards and understand how to effectively run those trainings is really key for that. So embedding that at every level has been really crucial. And that's about really understanding what works. We talk to a lot of vendors sometimes about, we could use virtual reality to train people, or we could use iPads, but in a fast-paced environment like this, there is no substitute for people getting onto the ground, doing it, practicing it, and learning through muscle memory. From a broader perspective, though, I hear every time I go to a conference these days about the level of change in the industry and how everything is changing all of the time. And I don't think that that's ever going to get any slower, particularly with the introduction of AI. And the hospitality industry has seen a lot of change, whether that's the introduction of frictionless markets or robotics or drones now that can deliver chicken tenders. So the level of change that's going on in our industry is also a strategic challenge for the L&D team. I think L&D teams are a crucial enabler when it comes to change management, and making sure that my team is really embedded and aligned to the communication, training, and retraining of teams and managers across the organization. And I'll say one more thing on that, Hannah, is that with the level of change, what we've discovered is embedding learning agility at every level is so important. Whether that's teaching managers how to learn, whether it's creating just-in-time solutions, setting the expectations that learning is continuous, it's not just an onboarding phase, or whether it's even testing for learning agility with certain roles that we hire to make sure that we're building a workforce that has that natural flex to train and learn and continue to develop and grow.
Absolutely. It's a really interesting, as I said, when you think of particularly your context. So you mentioned there that there are oftentimes, maybe 3,000 people that are on a dedicated event. How do you make sure that learning sticks and actually, changes that behavior, especially if the onboarding or the training has to be quite quick and in the moment? How do you ensure that it is not just a tick box and a compliance exercise and then that they're out in the world, but really that it is something that is affecting that behavior and is more of a solid foundation going forward?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I would say is the training, I've always believed the training should be a little bit inspiring, right? Like if you're trying to, there's so many ways that you can do training that just suck, right? Even a number of times you get people who are trying to deliver a message and they're just trying to get through their slides so they can go home. We proactively select and train people to be really inspiring presenters that kind of give people not just information, but an emotional drive to learn a set of standards. So typically we'll have an orientation with people. We make it fun. We make it engaging. We make it personally reinforcing for their own belief set, right? We make it about them and how important they are to creating that guest experience. And then we split people off and we take them and we make it fun, right? We gamify restaurant guest service, right? How you carry the wine, how you serve the plates, how you pour a pint of beer, for example, which is a skill in and of itself. We'll have races with a point of sale. So we inject inspiration, fun into the learning piece. And that's where you really see things stick. Ultimately, in our world, it's about giving people the information they need, making it fun and engaging, but most importantly, building their confidence in the skills that they need to execute effectively. And when we do that right, it makes a huge difference. The lines are shorter, the guests are happier, the team members are more comfortable, they retain, they want to come back the next year. And effectively pulling that off has been really key.
As someone whose first 8 years of a working life was in an Irish bar, I know the seriousness of learning how to pour a pint, particularly a pint of Guinness. And it's exactly to your point. You really Guinness is a good example of people, where there's a real pride now you're doing it right. It's a real sense of pride in the work and in the environment that you create. People are excited, and there's a kind of camaraderie between the individual and the customer as well. Is there a particular program maybe that you're particularly proud of that's delivered real impact? The way that you sound really passionate about how you set up some of these onboardings. I would love to hear an exact example.
Yeah, so our onboarding orientation program is called Creating Legends, and it's a very kitsch name. It's actually been called that since the 90s, so long before I was even in the workforce, right? I hasten to say. And it was always called Creating Legends. It's video based and it's designed to really talk to the purpose of what we're trying to do, right? To talk about, it's not just about pulling a pint, it's about creating an experience. And really aligning to people's need and desire to offer hospitality in those kind of environments. Now, it's gone through lots of iterations over the years, but it's pretty cool, right? We have an online version, we also have an in-person version, and we put over 150,000 people through it a year just in the United States. So it's designed in a way that it's engaging, it's interesting, it covers things like, bloodborne pathogen prevention and safety and allergen prevention, but we do it in a way that's interesting and engaging that sticks. And the way we've been able to scale that, drive consistency, and really make it something that people enjoy doing is something that my team is very proud of.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some of the impact of those programs, working with partners that Iventive also work with. And it really is a crowdsourced, leaning into the knowledge that your team members have already, and being able to exchange with new members as well. I actually had a similar conversation with a peer of yours in a similar industry in Australia, and they were in a direct consumer fast food industry. And the conversation I had with her was, she was like, a lot of these people are maybe hourly workers. It might be one of their early career jobs, but the biggest impact that they made was encourage everybody to think like an owner. And that was, for her, was the critical leadership capability that she wanted to develop. And actually, when she gave that power to the individuals to say, I want you to think like an owner. I'm giving you, and the example was up to the value of $1, you can fix the customer's problem in the moment. But I want you to, when you start, when you come into your role, when you start your shift, you are running this business. This is yours. You are front facing, and so think like an owner. And it was transformative in the impact, in the happy sheets from customers, but also it then created this psychological safety where they were getting responses from people in franchises that said, now that if you're asking my opinion, actually we found that this flow works, or I know this was how you set it out to do it. When it's operationalized, we found that we could do this instead of this, or this was actually the better way to go around it. And giving people that license to come to them with ideas just absolutely elevated across the business, and was a really interesting capability that I discussed with her. I'd be curious to know what you see, what are key capabilities that you like to see in leadership at Levy?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it is what you're describing, right? It's that ability to understand that great ideas are not the privilege of rank. That actually treating team members like assets and human beings as opposed to, just a number or, a transaction where I pay you an hourly rate and you fill widgets, is really key there. So I think when we're selecting leaders, we're looking for people who are nice and naturally interested in folks, right? Who pay attention to them. A few years back, we completed our first round of employee value proposition research, where we interviewed our team members and the industry to say, what's important to you when you're choosing a place to work, right? When you're looking for all the different jobs, whether it's Levy or McDonald's or wherever it happens to be. And what was interesting was the top 5 things were number 5, hourly rate. So the actual pay isn't even the number 1 or number 2 item they're looking for. People wanted flexibility. They wanted to feel like they were part of a team, but most importantly, they wanted to feel respected and appreciated. And that's become something that is absolutely core to everyone that we hire, right? Are we finding leaders who, they can drive the cost of goods and they can write a schedule? All those tactical skills are important. How they treat people is absolutely crucial, because the way that those leaders treat people will be reflected in how our team members treat our guests. So we actually do a lot of research to look at what it is about our great leaders that make them successful. And we looked at engagement survey results, psychometrics, and of course, feedback from team members on the front line. And a couple of things that kind of stand out to us. We know that leaders in Levy who really excel have great learning agility, as I mentioned already, because things are constantly changing, and being able to kind of move with the times and the food trends is kind of a core competency. The others are assertiveness. We actually hire for leaders who are assertive. And sometimes I think when we hear the word assertive, we think of bossiness or we think of commanding. Actually, in this case, assertive leaders set clear expectations and they hold people accountable. And in our environment, people really look for that. They want to know what good looks like and they want to know how they're doing. So assertiveness was really, really key. Emotion management was also somebody who's proactively good at ensuring that they are thoughtful about how they make other people feel, was a critical competency that we look for as well. Alongside all the other things, right? We want somebody to be numerically good, have good reasoning, great communication skills. But the kind of the niche ones for us were that kind of, are they a nice person? Are they an assertive person? Are they clear about what good looks like? And are they good at managing the emotional state of those around them?
And I think that responsibility is particularly acute in the industry, and in the flow of work when there could be many moving parts, and where one critical link in the supply chain can affect the way the whole rest of the restaurant or the day is ran. Someone that has the confidence to say, okay, there's lots of moving parts here now, but I'm going to take stock. We're going to readjust. Here's the expectations that I'm laying out. This is what we're accountable for. This is what we need to deliver. And that kind of moment of calm, or that anchor in as you say, in that fast-paced environment is vital. And I really appreciate the way you're framing assertiveness. And so often we can attribute nuances to a word that we associate with negative, but actually there's real positive and ultimately job critical competencies that are related to that. I guess if you were looking ahead then to the hospitality industry, in the future in 2026. And I know, Chicago, there's going to be, I guess, a lot happening in 2026 with the World Cup coming to the US and the North American cities. What are you excited about? What do you think will change in the industry? Is there anything that you're kind of keeping an eye on or maybe worried about as a broad stroke, or anything you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I think the most exciting things that are happening is the convergence of all these kind of different technologies and how we deploy them to enhance the guest experience. What we've seen is a lot of kind of tech being introduced. And I think when sometimes these companies who own the tech introduce it, they're like, this will save you labor dollars. We haven't really seen that at all. What we see is it's part of the guest experience that improves it. So whether it's a frictionless market that helps us to decrease line time or provide a solution for somebody that's not great with personal interaction, that's awesome. How does that then fit into the broader hospitality experience? And how do you make sure that team members understand how to behave in those different environments? So that's one of the really exciting things. We're also looking at how we deploy AI in a way that helps people in the flow of work. Helps give them the insights that they need, helps take some of the drudgery out of roles, whether it's, filling out theoretical matrices for cost of goods, or really helps them kind of make better decisions just in time and find the answers that they need. From a learning perspective, we're super excited to continue deploying our learning experience platform, which is also AI enabled, kind of video heavy. It has kind of AI coaches in there where you can talk to an AI coach about a certain process and it'll go through in detail with you. We launched that last year and we saw a 12% improvement in our engagement just in the kind of, are you given the training you need to be successful? And finding ways to kind of deploy that and use it in different ways and fun ways to align with the cool things that are happening in the company is something that we're really excited about. From a concern perspective, I mean, the same thing as a lot of businesses, right? The kind of ongoing discourse in society and kind of uncertainty economically does filter its way into our venues as well. And we are proactively talking to our location managers about creating a positive environment where people always feel safe, despite the things that are going on kind of externally, and making sure people understand that, whatever people's backgrounds or beliefs or situation, that they can come to work with us, they feel safe, secure, respected, and appreciated.
And I do think I know that there's industry trends, and there's going to be a lot more automation and others, but I do think it is still a differentiator when you have a positive interaction or customer experience. It does sit with you, it does stay with you. And I know even now I really value those moments more so than ever. Because I know I can get a very efficient process from a bot or from an AI chatbot. Sometimes that's important in the moment, but then when I have a really genuine interaction, it just changes the flow of the day, and you think that's a nice differentiator to have. So to come back to what you mentioned about hiring nice people, and also you also touched on, if it's not maybe a strength of someone isn't those interpersonal skills, but giving them the space to be able to develop those in a way that they feel safe, I think is really valuable, and it will be a differentiator in the world to come. I do truly believe that.
Sure. It's about giving people the opportunity to choose the type of experience they want. There are times, every organization has their kind of steps of service. I always think about it like I travel a lot for work, and sometimes it'll be 11 p.m. and I'm checking into a hotel, and the person behind the desk is very friendly and they're going through their script of, then the swimming pool is here and this, and are you a member of our loyalty program? And I'm like, I just want my hotel room key. And there's other times where you go and I'm on vacation or whatever, and it's a self-service kiosk for the hotel room key. And I'm like, well, I would have liked a personal interaction. I want to ask somebody for restaurant recommendations. And giving people that option of the type of experience that they want and blending that together really helps create different dimensions to what hospitality looks like, which is super exciting.
I completely agree with you, and that is that customer centricity of it's going to look different for every person on different days as well. We've all been there at the end of a long flight, and you're like, I need to check in. I don't have the energy. And then we've also, when maybe a meeting has gone off your calendar, and you're like, I've got the afternoon ahead of me. Where should I go? What should I go to eat? So I love that idea of keeping the customer at the focus. So David, one thing we like to do on these insight series is ask people in our network, What's one L&D belief or practice that you think the industry needs to seriously rethink or reconsider, even if it's a bit controversial?
I actually think this is controversial, but I don't think there'll be many people to disagree with it. I think the traditional way that we've approached digital learning sucks. I think that our approach to kind of this kind of 2, 3 hours SCORM course based compliance metric stuff, which is designed not necessarily to drive learning or behavioral change, but to tick a box, is destructive to L&D as a brand. I think that our kind of over reliance on that and kind of over engineering of it really needs to change. I don't think that people necessarily will complete those courses and do anything differently. Workplace harassment is a classic example. We do, everyone here goes through 2 hours of that every single year. Do I feel like that investment of time and money is making a big difference? I hope so. I don't know that it is. And I think generally our approach to these kind of static SCORM courses is terrible. I do believe, though, that digital learning has a huge amount of potential. I think when it's just in time, when it's engaging, when it's done right, and when it can be used in the flow of work, it can be very, very impactful. I think the historical approach we've taken there, where we're just trying to turn a classroom course into a digital thing, no matter how well produced, I don't think it's impactful. One other controversial opinion I do have, kind of linked to that, is we think of learning and communication in organizations as two separate things. We have a learning experience platform, we have an intranet, we kind of have these different kind of. Actually, I think with things moving so quickly, communication and learning can be almost blended together. I don't know that it should even be separate departments, because quite often organizational communication is about asking someone to do something or to change something or to take action on something, which has a learning component to it. So I think in the future, I think we should be looking at how do we better merge the L&D and communications functions, and how does the learning platform and the intranet communication platform almost become one in the same. I think there's a huge opportunity there to reframe both of those in a way where learning and comms just becomes part of continual organizational development in a period of consistent change. I don't know how controversial those are, but those are two areas where I think, compared to the typical literature, I think those are different areas for that.
Absolutely. I think there'll be some debate there, and I particularly like your comment around communications, because I think it's almost maybe it's a little bit of a sore spot sometimes, where learning leaders might say, we've designed this, we've rolled this out, but no one's engaging with it. And it's like, it might not be the learning content or the design. It might be, have you thought about how you're positioning yourself in the organization? And even the most evolved and robust and fantastic experiential, learning experience, if no one knows where to find it, or if it's not being spoken about in the right way, it will sit there dormant. And so I think people need to think seriously about that as well. There's the old adage of culture will eat strategy for breakfast, but maybe it's communication will absolutely eat anything else that you've put on the table if people don't know about how to get there, or how to do it. So I'm definitely aligned on that as well. One thing
Interesting is, oh, sorry, go on.
No, you carry on.
I think sometimes we forget when we communicate out learning stuff, we don't always remember what's in it for the learner. We had a campaign recently where we sent out reminders about responsible service of alcohol. And we did one video. We said, if you watch this the whole way through, you'll be able to complete a quiz. And the top 10 people who get the best score on the quiz win a prize. It was the best engagement we've ever had, right? And we've seen the same when we had like learning league tables, or we had kind of like certificates for programs, right? Even the certificate is a driver in itself. I think the what's in it for you piece is the bit that's quite often missed from learning comms. My 2 cents on that.
I talk about this often with your peers, and I think that the conundrum comes down to, are you creating learning or are you creating learners? And it's really about shifting that mindset for yourself. Is I want to create people that are interested in developing themselves at every new juncture, rather than interested in one specific certificate or area. It's someone that has that eagerness and that thought. And in maybe in your industry, which is if there is a new viral product or a new way, a sensational way of presenting food or a certain drink or something, but someone's like, I really want to learn that skill. I want to be able to engage in that broader social narrative and that virality piece. And maybe that's a question I would love to come to you on. And I'm just thinking kind of out loud on this one, but I can imagine that, especially in the era of social media, is that there is so much more emphasis on what that food looks like and what the experience is, and having that in the mind of the customer as well. Is that something you've seen, translated into how workers are approaching their skills, or how they like to engage in the learning as well?
Absolutely. I think we've kind of designed a lot of our learning to be around that kind of small format, engaging, and actually even just how things look and feel makes a big difference. I mean, we even have training now around kind of social media posting and media training for chefs, because quite often chefs will get, come onto a local TV station and show us the bites at the ballpark that are coming up this summer. So we actually have media training for chefs, which is always fun, because not many chefs love being in front of the camera, even though there are so many cooking shows out there now. But yeah, absolutely finding out, leaning into that kind of small format, mutual engagement type of model is really cool. One thing that I'd be excited to try actually in the future is a lot of organizations have leaned into this kind of like employee produced learning, where team members create videos about how they do things and they almost become internally famous on our own kind of communication channels. I've seen some great examples of that with Marks and Spencer actually in the UK. And I think that can be a really great way of ensuring that not only we're sharing knowledge and expertise, but doing something in a way that feels really representative of the organization.
It's something I've seen fantastic examples of as well. And as we enter into the multi-generational workforce, it's a really great way to honor people that have been in organizations for a long time, to capture knowledge as well. I've seen people develop almost alumni knowledge networks, so people that maybe have retired or moved on, but if they, because you hear stories all the time, there's, if something breaks, there's the one person that knows how to fix it, or the one person that had the knack, or that cracked the code. And it's being able to honor those moments and those people in a way that is gives them credit, and also and to the comment around think like an owner, where they feel like I have a part to play in this broader ecosystem. So I also love seeing stories of that, and I do think that will develop as well, particularly with the more experiential platforms that you've referenced. If you're able to see a video and it is by David, that is my colleague that is teaching me how to do this, who I know just from word of mouth is great at this role, or great at, and has this skill, you'll start to feel that connection, I think, closer.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I've really enjoyed our conversation. It's really great to hear, both the Levy perspective, but also more broadly about hospitality industry and how that's changing and how you're engaging your team members on that. We love to have you involved in our sessions, and very excited. I think we'll see you in Chicago next as well in the summer. And for anyone that is interested in picking up this conversation with you outside of those events, I'm sure you're happy to be reached out to via LinkedIn or via ourselves as well. We'd be happy to put in touch. Thank you.